Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Kausha, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Our first miracle today is something I experienced myself last summer, a year ago. I was passing out cards at a beach and telling people about our books and our website, and I wound up meeting a Ukrainian family who had moved to the United States many years before the Russian-Ukrainian war in 2022, many years before, and they became United States citizens many years before 2022. But I met the whole family. They were all at the beach together, a husband and wife with 3 children, and there were 2 grandparents there as well. And I asked them if they experienced coincidence miracles and what kind of experience they've had in their life about miracles and their relationship with God. And I was really blown away. I've been talking to people like this for many years and asking them for input. This family was so amazing. Every member of the family has experienced miracles. And they have this tremendous strong faith in God. They believe very much they can talk to God, and God does inspire them and send them ideas, inspirations to help them navigate through life. And I was just very impressed with all of their stories. Primarily their stories were like health related. They had illnesses and the family would pray. They were very much based on prayer. They prayed about everything. So health care kinds of problems, job-related problems, and financial problems. And it seems like whatever came up, they would pray together as a group. And I asked them where they got all this strong faith from, and I'm very happy to tell you that all of them said it came from what their grandparents had taught them very simply as they were growing up, to pray and ask God for help and ask God for inspirations and wisdom. And they've been doing this their whole life, and they could have written their own books about it. They have many stories. So just to meet a family like this of the grandparents were there, husband and wife was there, and 3 children, and they were very ebullient, and you could tell when they were talking about God, they were talking about their best friend. So I wish you were there, but the message basically is just to tell you there are people, whole families like this, who absolutely are positive they can pray and God does help them. So that should encourage the rest of us when we have problems. Please reach for a pencil and paper because I think you'll want to jot some things down about this next coincidence miracle. So this next coincidence miracle, by the way, is something that happened to me right after I met the Ukrainian family, which I just talked about. We were at the beach, and I was going along talking to people, passing out cards about our books, etc. And the coincidence was I bumped into a husband and wife that were at the beach, and they had read my book, so they knew all about it. And when I asked them about coincidence miracles, they were delighted to tell me that the book has helped them tremendously. The thing they got out of the book was that, the first 40 pages or so, probably the first 50 pages, talks about the steps in the process of how do you talk to God, how do you hear God, how can you be confident, what kinds of scriptures prove that God wants to talk to us, etc., etc. And then after the first 50 pages, there's 100 miracle stories explained in great detail. So that's what both books do that, by the way. You don't have to read both books. You can just read one book, and you get the same thing. You get the 50 pages of explaining, and then you get miracle stories, 100 miracle stories in each book. So they were delighted with the fact that the book did that, because not only does the book tell them how to, but then it gives tremendous life-changing examples of miracles that happened to me in my life by me following the process. Okay, so I tell people how, and then I give them great evidence on proof. So kinds of things they shared with me when I asked about coincidence miracles was the fact that, first of all, they have found that they can ask God questions, and they do get inspired, and they get ideas and inspirations they know are coming from God. And the word, I remind everybody, the word inspiration is 2 words. It means in. Inspiration is the Spirit coming into you. So an inspiration means the Spirit of God has spoken to you. And that's what idea means also. It's 2 words as well. It's the word I plus Deo, and Deo is the Latin word for God. So they have great evidence that, following the book, just asking God what to do, and the Bible tells us that too. That's all we have to do is just ask God what to do. And so that's their answer, and their response is, Tony, you've convinced us with your book. We just need to keep asking God what to do, and we'll be inspired. For example, we were inspired to come to the beach today. You were inspired to come at this time, and now we're meeting you. So, getting the inspirations to come at a certain time, we wind up meeting you, and we've gotten life-changing benefits from your book. And they tell me that their opportunities and their blessings have come in things like going shopping. They go shopping, they ask God where to go shopping, what kinds of things to shop for, and they wind up getting bargains, what car dealership to go to, and they find opportunities. The right car is there, the right price is there, and home purchases as well. So in our books, we've had cases exactly like that, car purchases, house purchases. You'll see that in the 2 book stories as well. So the thing you're going to want to jot down, I think, is they just can't help themselves by telling everybody around them that the Bible is very clear. All we have to do is ask God questions. And in our book, we gave them the scriptures. And so I want to give you the scriptures where you'll learn that very simply. So Jeremiah chapter 7, write that down, Jeremiah chapter 7, and Jeremiah chapter 33. So if you read those 2 things, you'll see all you have to do is ask God questions. And Luke chapter 10 also says all you have to do is ask God questions. And James chapter 1. Okay, so one more time, if you want glaring evidence from the Bible, Jeremiah 7, Jeremiah 33, Luke chapter 10, and James chapter 1. Our next coincidence miracle is someone I met at the beach while I was passing out cards, and I was amazed with their story. They tell me that they have had the experience for the last 30 years that spirits from heaven actually appear to them at their house, primarily at their house, and they've relocated twice, and the spirits still show up in this 3rd residence. So it's not a question of particular houses, they tell us. It's a message in her life of a gift that she has from God, that the spirits appear to her and ask her to tell things to the relatives of the spirits. And she's had this happening to her for 30 years. And as I indicated, she told me she's relocated 3 times and the spirits still show up. And her primary message to people, she knows what's happening. The spirits are telling their relatives through her to do certain things, and it's always the same thing. It's to encourage people to pray to God, ask God what to do, ask God for inspirations. That's the kind of thing that she winds up telling these relatives. So it seems to be a wholesome message, and so she's trying to, tell me that that's her experience, that's her mission, and she does a lot of good with this, and she gets a lot of people to believe in God because of what happens, because she typically tells people what the spirits tell her to tell them, and the spirits always give them a message that convinces the relative is convinced that she is really talking to the spirit she said visited her. In other words, when she gives the message to the relatives, the thing that tells the relative that she really is talking to their relative from heaven is because she's able to talk about situations and events in the life of the spirit which the relatives recall and remember. Now, all I could do is suggest to you from my experience on the planet Earth over the last 50 years, if you meet someone like this and they tell you something, you always have the right process for you is take whatever they tell you and go to God and pray to God and ask God to inspire you, because every single person on the planet has access to God. And if you ask God for help, I haven't met anybody yet who doesn't really get help if you study their lives. So that's what I recommend to people. If you meet someone like this and you get spiritual messages, then you should go to God and you should pray to God and ask Him to guide you. Now, there are people in the Bible who had the gift of discerning spirits, so that's all I can offer you, that the Bible talks about people who have the ability to discern good and evil spirits. So that's biblical, and it's 2,000 years ago it was happening. So I can't comment on anybody else's special gift, but at least this woman is leading everybody to go to God and talk to God, so that's the good news. She's not leading people to come and talk to her. Our next coincidence miracle is about someone who tells us they had been in a church praying to the Blessed Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus, praying to her because she's certainly in heaven as well, and asking her for help and inspirations, and asking her to please talk to her son Jesus on this person's behalf. And then after they were in that church praying, they went to their car to go home, and when they got to their car, they noticed that a car passed them as they were driving out of the lot, and the license plate on that car was 444. And in history, the number 444 is the number associated with reminding us of the name of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Now, I know a lot of people don't believe in praying to Mary, but there are a lot of people who do. And if you want evidence, you can Google the story of Fatima or Google the story of Lourdes. If you Google those stories and look at Matthew chapter 17, where Jesus himself was talking to Moses and Elijah, who came and visited from heaven. So those are the things I think I'd recommend you look into if you doubt that people can talk to Mary, the Blessed Virgin Mary. Google Fatima or Lourdes, where miracles occurred, and you can read in the Bible the book of Matthew, chapter 17. Well, I pray that everyone will keep asking God what to do and do what God inspires you to do. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.